I am Hera from EV Services coming live today to assist you all with your queries regarding the current border restrictions to New Zealand. I know there are a lot of you who are eagerly waiting for a border exemption which will allow you to travel back to New Zealand, whether it's to join back work or join your family or complete your education, etc. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly take you over through all the various border exemptions that are currently available for all the offshore applicants. I would be happy to answer your queries as well towards the end of the live session. So feel free to drop in your queries in the comment section. I will get to them in the later part. I would also suggest that if you feel that you're eligible for a certain border exemption, leave us your contact details. These exemptions have various eligibility requirements that you're required to be met. So speaking to us in detail will ensure that we are able to give you the best advice in the first go instead of having some information, a part of information about your case right now, and I give you an advice and there turns out to be certain other things that have to be considered as well. So it's better if you feel that you are meeting some of the requirements that I will talk about, the border exemptions. If you feel that you're falling into those categories, drop in your number, drop in your email ID, or just put up a hand and say, please get connect with me, and the team will get in touch with you. So I will just wait for a bit and see if wait for more people to join in so that we can start the live session and it can be a good, fruitful one. Okay, I think we have started with some questions on YouTube. We'll wait for Facebook to be up and running. Okay, so what we'll do today is basically we'll talk about the border exemptions in three broader categories. So basically we'll start with the border exemptions that will allow you to travel back to New Zealand to join back work. We'll come to the border exemptions that are available for all the partners and dependent children of New Zealand temporary work visa holders, student visa holders, or partners of resident and citizens. And then we'll come to the border exemptions available for students who want to go back to New Zealand to join back their education. So there are certain categories, certain occupations, and certain categories under the partnership who are eligible for such border exemptions. So hear out the entire category, see if you're falling under these instructions, see if you're meeting these requirements. I will list down the eligibility requirements for every border exemption. However, I wouldn't be able to do them in detail because it would be very difficult to talk about all of these border exemptions in details over a live session. But I will give you a good idea that will at least let you know that if you are falling under this category or not. And if you feel that you are, drop in a comment, leave us your number or your contact details, and we will get in touch with you for sure. So I think we can start the session now. So let's start the session with the border exemptions that will allow you to return back to work. So while most of the offshore visas are currently suspended, there are some occupations in New Zealand which are considered under the critical purpose and allows you to apply for border exemption. So the first one that we'll start with is temporary work visa holders currently outside of New Zealand, but who have maintained a job or business in New Zealand and have lived here for some time prior to departing may be eligible for a border exemption. So I'll repeat that for you. So if you are someone who had a temporary work visa for New Zealand and you are right now currently outside of New Zealand, but have continued to maintain your job or a business in New Zealand. So that means that you currently still have that job. You have retained your job throughout the last 2 years or that period that you have been out of New Zealand and have also lived in New Zealand prior to departing New Zealand. So you have also stayed in New Zealand, then you got out, you went to visit your family or you went for a vacation or whatever, and you got out and then you couldn't go back in. So those are the people who will be eligible for this border exemption. So for the another eligibility requirement for this would be that you should have departed New Zealand between 1st December 2019 and 9th October 2020. So this is the another eligibility requirement that you need to keep in mind. So you should have departed between these two dates. I'll repeat that for you: the 1st of December 2019 and 9th October 2020. If you've departed New Zealand within this time frame, then you can consider this border exemption for yourself. Now, what all work visas are considered under this border exemption? So the first one would be essential skills work visa, granted to people who were on the mid-skilled, higher skilled, or at or above medium wage. This is very important to note. Essential skills work visa holders who are currently outside of New Zealand have continued to maintain their employment, departed New Zealand between 1st December 2019 to 9th October 2020 will be eligible for these border exemptions, provided you were granted an essential skills work visa under the mid-skilled, higher skilled, or at or above medium wage. The second category would be the entrepreneur work visa. This is very straightforward. If you have an entrepreneur work visa, you're currently stuck outside, please get in touch with us and we can definitely make a border exemption work for you. There are other few categories under the work to residents who are being considered in this border exemption as well. Those would be talent accredited, long-term skill shortage list work visas, skilled migrant category, job search visas. This visa is something that is given to you before your residence is approved. This allows you to travel to New Zealand there, stay there for 12 months and find a job. If you're on this visa, the skilled migrant category job search visa, you can consider this border exemption for yourself. The other two would be South Island contribution work visa and global impact work visa. So there are not a lot that you might, the people who are watching this live session, there could be kind of these work visa categories that you may not be eligible for, but essential skills, entrepreneur work visa, and skilled migrant category job search visa are the three most important work visas that a lot of people fall under. So if you are on these work visas, currently have a valid visa, please connect with us. The next thing would be for the next eligibility requirement, as I said, is that you have to be currently employed. This is very important. You shouldn't have lost your job in between. So if you have a case that you lost your job, but your current employer is happy to give you your job back, it wouldn't work. That would not make you meet the eligibility requirements. You are required to have maintained that occupation throughout the time that you were outside of New Zealand. This is a very important point, and this is where a lot of people not meet the requirements because obviously the employer couldn't sustain the job for that long for you. And while he's still willing to give you that job today, Immigration New Zealand is not considering those applicants for now. The other thing that needs to be met is that you should have lived in New Zealand for more than 2 years before leaving or between 1 and 2 years. There are very different instructions under these categories as well. And I wouldn't go in detail with them because it will get very confusing for everyone who's watching the live session. And so I would suggest that if you're falling under the broader category of what I've explained for the work visas, I think it would be a good chance that you will meet the border exemption. So leave us your contact details or leave us a query on the comment section and I will get back to that. There are some other work visa, there are some other border exemptions that are available, which is for critical workers. This is not necessarily for people who were already in New Zealand. These are also for people who are new health or disability workers, such as nurses. So these occupations are right now very critical in New Zealand. They are considered as critical services. So New Zealand have opened up a border exception, especially for these categories, which will allow not only their old migrants, but also new people to come into the country and help them out. So if you are a critical worker and you're looking for traveling to New Zealand, I think this is a great time, especially for nurses, technical staff, disability support, and hospital practitioners. There are other few categories as well, but these are main broad categories under the critical worker. So if you think that you are falling under this, speak to us so that we can carve up a pathway through this border exemption to New Zealand for you. The good part about this category is that if you're falling under this, your family can also travel with you. They have provided this provision that your family can be a part of your request to travel, and they will also be approved visas as similar to yours. And you can, they can be with you while you're in New Zealand. So if you're someone who works in the medical field, keep in mind that the medical field means that all the rules that are indirectly related to the provision of health and disability services or corporate functions, such as human resources, office administration, property maintenance, these are all not counted in this. They have to be particularly in the medical field. So these exemptions would be more likely to apply to you if you're working in the medical field. To reach out to us and speak to us about it. Even if you have just a doubt, just pick up the phone and call us and have a chat and see if you can be eligible for them. So these would be the basic categories for the workers or people who would want to go to New Zealand to work in the medical field. So if you are under these categories, it's a really good border exemption to apply for. So before we come to the next border exemption, that is for the partners, I'll just quickly see if we have any questions coming in for the current work visa border exemption that we spoke about, so that we can, while we're on the topic, I can sort out those queries and then move on to the next topic. So Anand Infinity has left us a question saying, any news on going to India for a quick visit with WTR visa? Anand, there's one thing that I would want to know is that do you currently hold a WTR visa or are you looking to apply for one? So you can only go to if you can only go if you can, want to travel. Just let me just quickly read this question again. Okay, so you want to go to India for a quick visit. Okay. Anand, why don't you give us a little more detail about what kind of visa you hold? What is the validity of your visa? Till when is it valid? If there are any, what are the conditions applying on your visa? And then I'll be able to advise you better if you can go to India for a quick visit. Ideally, in the current situation, I wouldn't recommend you that. However, there is a border exemption available for WTR, some of the categories under WTR. So just give us a little more detail or leave us your number and someone from my team will get in touch with you. And then we can advise you if you can, what could be the time frame of your visit, by when should you return. And we'll be able, at least I'll be able to give you a detailed answer then. Next question. I don't think we have any more questions for the work visa. Hi Anant, I saw your response. You hold a WTR visa. I would need more details about what kind of visa it is, the validity of the visa, and I think that would giving out such details of your visa would be better if you just drop in an email to us or give us a call or drop in your number so that we can get in touch with you, and we'll guide you better with it. So one thing would be that if you go, you will have to apply for border exemption to go back in. So keep that in mind that there might be some waiting period there. So regardless, speak to us in detail and then you can make your plans accordingly. Let's see if we have anything on YouTube. Shreya Mary says, hi ma'am, was waiting for the new updates. Hi Shreya. Muhammad says, hello, hope I can visit India soon. So we don't have any more questions here. So I'll go back to the next category. And so the next category would be for partners and dependent children of temporary visa holders. Now, this is a separate category which allows, so there is one broader category which is for partners and dependents of temporary visa holders. There's one category which is partners and dependents of residents and citizens. Recently, they've come up with a new category which is for partners and dependent children of temporary visa holders who are teachers. So this category has specially come for people whose partners are in New Zealand and working as a teacher in New Zealand. So under this category, how are you eligible for this? You can only be eligible if your partner, if you are a partner or dependent child of a teacher who is currently in New Zealand on a temporary visa and is employed in a teaching role. So these three things you have to keep in mind. You're a partner and dependent children of a teacher who is currently in New Zealand on a temporary visa and is employed in a teaching role. So if you think that you're falling under this category, this is a new border exemption that has come in. It would be I think it's a decent way to travel to New Zealand right now. So just consider this border exemption. Leave us your questions if you think that you're falling under this category. Apart from this, this is the only eligibility requirement. Apart from this, the broader section is the partners and dependent children who held a visa for New Zealand but were unable to join their partner or parent in New Zealand before the border closed. So to be eligible for this, there are certain things that you have to keep in mind. You so suppose you're a partner of a worker. So in that case, that your worker, the partner, New Zealand-based partner, needs to have a work visa which is valid for more than 12 months at the time you're applying for the request. This rule is very important, which literally defines if you will meet the requirement or not. Other than that, there are other there are other categories such as partner and dependent children or workers employed in the critical health services. This is for people who are already in New Zealand, whose partners are in New Zealand, currently working in the critical health services. Their partners and dependent children can also apply for border exemptions. The one catch here would be that the visa that your partner, New Zealand-based partner, holds should clearly define that they are working in the critical health sector. So if they are a nurse or if they are in the technical staff or any of these categories, their work visa should define that. So it has to be a specific work visa. Basically, specific in the mean it needs to say what they're working as. It needs to that work visa should be just for the purpose of working as a critical health worker. This is very important because we've had a lot of clients whose partners are on post-study work visa, working in the critical health sector, but are not eligible for this requirement, for this border exemption, just because their visa doesn't specify it clearly that they have to work in the health department. So these are the other categories which are available for the partners and dependent children. Um, partners of dependent and partners and dependent children of residents and visa holders is something which is very prominent right now. A lot of people are trying for these categories, and there is some recent not update, I would say, but a trend that we have seen from Immigration New Zealand, which I would, talk to you guys about. So basically, if you are a partner of New Zealand resident or citizen, and your partner, a New Zealand-based partner, is traveling to your country and taking you with them, that's when you can apply for this border exemption. So what is the most important part is that you and your partner need to be traveling to New Zealand together. So for this purpose, a lot of partners who are based in New Zealand on a resident visa or are citizens are traveling to their partner's home country, living with them, and then traveling back to New Zealand with them on these border exemption visas. Now, how to apply for them? What are the requirements to be met? It's a bit tricky here because they want you to meet the genuine and stable and living together requirements. While genuine and stable can be handled, but living together requirements require you to have lived together for a decent amount of time. Now, instructions do not talk about how long you need to live together for. However, there are certain expectations from the Immigration New Zealand. When this border exemption started, we were actually receiving positive feedback. That means that EOIs were getting approved for couples who had lived together for even 2 to 3 months. But recently, we've seen a trend that couples who have lived together for even 4 months are not able to get an EOI approval right now. So it seems that they have increased the threshold for the living together internally, and if you have lived together for about 5 to 6 months in the home country here or wherever, that's when you can apply for the border exemption. That's when it's likely to get approved. You can apply anytime, but the approval chances are going to be more at that time. So maybe to balance it out, what's the advice that I've been giving my clients is to apply for partnership visas directly now. Why is that? Because the partnership visas are taking much lesser time now. If you compare it with the previous time frames, they take about 2 to 3 months now. That's the trend. They are more considerate toward those applications, and partnership visas are getting more approvals because by the time they process the partnership visa, you already have lived together for another 2 to 3 months. So I would suggest to apply for a partnership visa once you've lived together for 2 to 3 months. Then you apply for it while your application is processing. Another a month or two passes, and then you're meeting the requirements. Second important part is when you submit a partnership visa directly, what it allows you to do is submit documentation for it. So everything that you are writing about your relationship, you can provide evidence for it. So if there's documented evidence in the file, they cannot deny that you have not lived together. That is the main reason why now partnership visas. I'm suggesting partnership visas more to my clients than EOIs because in the border exemptions, you only get a paragraph to write in EOIs, and you cannot cover your entire story. You cannot provide any documents. You cannot uh, provide any evidence to what you're saying. And I feel that that's where it lacks. While in partnership visas, if you apply for a visa directly, you can submit all your documents, and it is working for a lot of people there. So if you are someone who's traveling to your partner's home country to live with them on a fetch mission and get them back with you, consider the partnership visa as well. And I would suggest consider both because while the time frame for the border exemption is lesser than the partnership visa, the approval rate right now is more for the partnership visa. So we have to weigh in balance. We have to see what kind of, what is the time frame of the relationship. Have you lived together in the past? So there are a lot of things that needs to be discussed and looked at before you decide which path to take first. So currently, in fact, a few of my clients are currently now, looking at the other pathway that is applying for partnership because EOIs recently are, we're getting very unfortunate response from immigration, I would say. So I think this is the one important part about partners of and dependent children of residents and citizens. The last category that we would have is for students, but before I go on to that, it's a very small category, not many options available there. But we'll just go through a few questions and see if we have. Ali Shazati, what type of visa category you're discussing? Hi, Ali. Thank you for leaving us your question. I was talking about the partnership border exemptions basically. So border exemptions available for partners and dependent children of temporary work visa holders or residents and citizens. If you feel that you're falling into this category or your partner is in New Zealand, speak to us. This live session is entirely about the border exemptions. There is right now all offshore applications are closed, so you cannot lodge any applications right now from offshore. So these are only for border exemptions. So if you are going on falling under this category, leave us your details and we will get back to you. I have another question from Lavin Punjabi. He says, "Hi, sorry for going out of topic. Can you put some emphasis on international students going to New Zealand? Your assumptions, when can they go?" Hi, Lavin. Thank you for leaving that question. And I know it's the most talked about question. Unfortunately, I cannot provide you with an answer because we have no updates from them. We have no update from the government. We were looking at February intake, but that seems unlikely now as well. So it's just a waiting game. Hold on till the time we do not get a clear picture from the government. It would be incorrect of me to advise you on the time frame. So hold it, and we will have another live session and an update session once we hear something about the international students. Everyone is eagerly waiting for that to start soon. So just hold on, and I guess just wait for that day to come. Next would be ringgit to dollar. Thank you for leaving the question. The question is, do you guys help Malaysian engineers to cross borders? We definitely help Malaysian engineers. We help people from all over the world. So leave us your contact details so that we can see you carve out a pathway for you, which is the suitable pathway for you. If you're an engineer, you can actually look at residence options as well. While they do are not picking up the EOIs for residents, the skilled migrant category, you can still submit and keep them in the pool. So if you want to explore that option, speak to us and we will be happy to help you out. The next question is from Vinny Chandra, and she says, my husband has done level 9, waiting for spouse work visa. What about partnership visa? Are we getting spouse visa? The partner visa for temporary visa holders is currently suspended. So you will have to wait for them, until they start the processing of those visa applications again. So there is no update that for that right now. If you already held a visa or currently hold a visa, that's when you could have applied for a border exemption or could have seen if you're meeting the border exemption requirements. However, if you're waiting for your spouse visa, work visa to come through, you'll have to wait for a bit because there is no update regarding those visas right now. Thank you, Winnie. Okay, these are the questions we have on YouTube. Let's see if we have something on Facebook. Shruti Jijo says, my husband is a resident and a frontline worker, have been separated from 2 years, need a current. Shruti, if your husband is a resident and a frontline worker, I think you would have a decent chance to apply as a partner of a critical health worker or as a resident. So there are two border exemptions that would be available to you. I would suggest please leave in your details or you can pick up the phone and speak to us. Our contact details are 1800 103 6525. This is our toll-free number. You can get in touch with us and we will guide you through the border exemptions. I think you will be eligible for them. So just leave us your number and why not just speak to us so that you can get an idea of how it looks like for you. Okay, so I think we have run out of questions here. So I'll go on to the last border exemption, that is for offshore applicants who are students. So what immigration had done was they had started accepting up to 250 international PhD and postgraduate students who have been nominated by the education provider. So you need to have been nominated by an education provider to be allowed to return to New Zealand to continue your studies. So if from your education provider and our postgraduate course, please feel free to apply. The second update would be that if you are they're choosing 1,000 up to 1,000 students for returning degrees and postgraduate students who have been nominated for by the education provider. So these two areas you have to, if you're falling under that, speak to us so that we can assist you with getting the nomination from the education provider, speaking to them to see if they would be willing to, nominate you. If you get nominated, then what's going to happen, you can also take your partners and dependent children along with you. So this is also a very good border exemption for all the students who were previously pursuing a PhD or a postgraduate degree in New Zealand, and speak to your education providers or speak to us and we'll have a chat with them. If they can give you a nomination, I think this is a very good category and your partners and dependent children will be able to travel with you as well. So this is the last category, which is more I think is important for the offshore applicants. Apart from them, these categories, there are other categories such as If you're in a quarantine-free travel country, there are humanitarian reasons. Humanitarian reasons basically means that you need to have a very important reason to travel to New Zealand. It has to be of utmost importance. This is something that will be assessed by immigration officer. So you can only put in a request if they feel that yes, you need to be in New Zealand for this particular thing. They will grant you a humanitarian visa. So these are the few categories that you can apply under. Unfortunately, other offshore applications continue to be closed. So we will have to wait for new border exemptions to come in. Or if you feel you're falling under these border exemptions, I think just pick up the phone and apply for them before they do any further changes to the current ones. So these are the border exemptions that we've briefly talked about. While we've talked about the border exemptions categories, let's talk about the process for it. So how you apply for a border exemption? You start with an EOI. EOI is an expression of interest that you submit. There's a form on immigration website. You basically fill that form and submit it. An EOI gets assessed in about a day or two. They will come back to you either with saying that your EOI has been successful or it has not been successful. So if it's been successful, you get an ITA, which is an invitation to apply, which basically says that you are invited to apply for the critical purpose visitor visa with all the necessary documentation. Either you get this or you get a decline, and then the next process would be you can apply for an EOI again. You can apply for EOIs as many times. There are no restrictions on the number of times you can submit this application. Now, if once you have received your ITA and you prepare your file, we submit the file to immigration. They do every time they give you an ITA, they also specify within how much time you need to submit your application. So you submit your application to them in the time frame given, and your application is most likely to get assessed within 2 to 4 weeks. So this is the time frame given by immigration. They say 2 weeks on the website, but we've seen applications taking about 2 to 4 weeks to come through. This is the process for border exemptions. There are some border exemptions that may not require you to go to this detailed process and may just require you to apply for variation of conditions. So this is entirely dependent on what category of border exemption that you are applying under, if you have a visa already, if you don't have a visa. So it entirely depends on that. For that, you will have to speak to us to understand what category you're falling under. These border exemptions are so confusing that a lot of people end up applying under the wrong category and get declines, and then they come to us and then seeking help, and it gets difficult to cover those declines which have been declined either by writing incorrect information or filling the incorrect form or other reasons. So speak to us before you do anything about the border exemptions. Get a good idea about what category you're falling under, what are the chances of approval, what are the documents that you need, and we will be able to guide you in the best way possible. Till now, we've had a very good track record with border exemptions. We have gotten very complicated cases approved under border exemptions. So if you are falling under border exemptions, speak to us and apply for them right now. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the managed isolation quarantine. The main reason that you have to keep this in consideration is because the slots are very few. They open up anytime during the day. You have to keep a regular track on them. There are not many slots that open up. Currently, if you open up the website for MIQ, which is a managed isolation quarantine mandatory in New Zealand if you're traveling from countries that are not quarantine free. So if you're traveling from there, you have to stay 14 days in an MIQ in New Zealand, and you need to book it in advance. So if you are applying for a border exemption, you also need to look if you're finding a slot for MIQ, and that's how you have to travel, plan your travel for the future. So this is one thing is very important. Keep a track on MIQs constantly. You can always book them, and in case you are not able to make it by then, you can get it rescheduled as well. These managed quarantines are available for all the clients who have to travel to New Zealand through one way or the other. So on this note, I think we have covered all the areas of a border exemption, and I think I'll be happy to take some questions if we have any questions related to this category. Okay, so we don't seem to have many questions on YouTube. We'll check on Facebook. If we don't have any questions, then we can wrap up the session. So, Shruti Jijo asked, does he need to travel to India? Shruti, if you want to apply for a border exemption as a partner of resident, then he will need to travel to India. If you apply as a partner of a critical health worker, then he may not be required to travel to India. So I would need to assess the requirements of the critical health worker if they are being met by a partner or not. And that's why I suggest leave us your number so that we can get in touch with you. With such limited information, it would be very difficult for me to give you a proper advice, and I also wouldn't want to give you an advice with half information. So just looking at your question, I think you will be able to meet the border exemption and your partner may not need to travel to India. So leave us your number and we will speak to us, or you can give us a call on our toll-free number, which is 1-800-103-6525. Okay, next question we have is from Abhilash, and he says, by when can we expect the borders to open up? He's also given some history. Oh, that's a long history, Abhilash. Just give me a second. So regarding your questions on when the borders will open up, sorry, but I do not have an answer for that right now. And there is no indication or clarity from the government as well, so we'll have to wait on that. Regarding if you will be eligible for a border exemption, I can quickly check. So what here would the important part would be that, like you have written that your partner is working in the health sector, we will have to see if her occupation is falling under that in a border exemption or not. So there are certain occupations that if you are under that occupation, then only your partners can travel. I would also request you to leave us your contact details, so at least speak to us over the phone. It would be very difficult for me to advise you in detail over a live session. So leave us your number so that we can get in touch with you. When Chetan Gaikwad says, when New Zealand gonna allow international students to enter the country? Chetan, right now we don't have any update. Hopefully soon. We were expecting February intake to happen. However, that is not seem to be happening right now. So it's just gonna be a waiting game for now. So let's just wait and see. If there is any update, we will be the first ones to giving you that update. But unfortunately, right now, I do not have any new information regarding that. I think we are done with the questions here. So I don't see any more questions regarding this topic. Okay, so I think we're good to end this session for today. Thanks, Abhilash, for leaving us your number. Team, if you can note his number and please get in touch with him with the session and assist him with the query. If not, if Abhilash, just ask the member to get in touch with one of the LIs so you can speak to one of us, the licensed advisors, and get a proper feedback on your case, because I think it would be very important if you speak to a licensed advisor as they would be able to assess you under all the instructions that you need to meet for the border exemption. Okay, on that note, thank you for everyone who came to this live session and asked your questions. I know it's a waiting game, and it is getting a bit taxing for everyone to wait and see when they can join back family or work or their studies. But I think all we can do is right now hope that the New Zealand government opens up the borders soon or comes up with more border exemption that will allow you guys to travel to New Zealand. This is all that I have from my end right now. Okay, we have another question. He says, "Hi, ma'am. Is there any news that all the visas applied prior to August 10th are getting lapsed in New Zealand and government is refunding the money?" Yes, that is true. Not all the visas. Most of the visas apart from partnership visas. Partnership visas were not under that category. However, student work, visitor, if you have applied for those visas, then they will get refunded. And if you're falling under the refund category, the government, the New Zealand immigration will get in touch with you or your advisor who you had applied through and then start the refund process. So you don't have to do anything from your end if you are under that category. If you are eligible for a refund or your application is being lapsed, Immigration New Zealand will get in touch with you themselves. So just wait out, speak to your agent who helped you out with your visas, and just wait it out to hear back from immigration, I would suggest. So I think that's it for now. It was great speaking to all of you. If you have any more questions, speak to us, pick up the phone and speak to us. Our contact details are 1-800-103-6525. You can go to our website, you can connect with our licensed advisors. All the details for them are provided there. Pick up your phone and have a chat with us. We'll be happy to assist you there. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday to all of you. Stay safe. I hope you and your family stay safe. And I think there are a few more questions, but we'll have. So if there are people who have not been able to answer to, don't worry. The team will get in touch with you, and we'll have your questions answered. So I'm wrapping up the session for today. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Take care. Goodbye.